So I watched the first special episode of the third season of The Owl House and thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed the story and the creepy Halloween atmosphere. That's exactly what I need right now. The animation was great as always, and the soundtrack was pretty cool too. However, despite really enjoying the episode, I couldn't help but feel really sad, to be honest. Sad and frustrated because of the way Disney treated this show. Instead of a regular season consisting of 20 episodes or so, Disney only allowed 3 44-minute special episodes. Basically just a 2-hour movie to conclude such a massive story with so many interesting characters and plot lines. And Dana Terrace and the crew managed to deliver an interesting story despite all the obstacles that Disney put in their way. In the intro of the episode we pretty much saw what this season could have been. Luz introducing her friends to her mom and explaining what she's been through in the boiling aisles. Emily, Gus, Willow and Hunter trying human food for the first time. Luz taking Emily to a nice small diner on a date. They touch hands and blush. Then it starts raining and they kiss in the rain. Luz coming out to her mother. It could have been so much, like Amphibia, but even better than Amphibia. Unfortunately, season 3 is such a wasted opportunity. According to Disney itself, the show just doesn't fit their brand, whatever that means. But Amphibia does fit, apparently. The reason might be that Amphibia has more filler episodes, and it is much easier to tune in without watching the whole show. The Owl House is a story-driven series and has much less filler episodes, and you need to watch the whole show to understand what's going on. Maybe that's what not fitting the brand actually means, but I think that's not the case really. I suppose the reason Disney wanted to get rid of the show so bad is LGBTQ+ representation. I don't think Disney bosses are really homophobic, but millions of people are, and Disney was just afraid of losing the audience. I really doubt Disney cares much about international audience since the Owl House is already banned in many places, especially in the Middle East and the Southeast Asia. But there are still millions of homophobic parents in the United States, and that is what really bothers Disney. This is why Disney wanted to put an end to the show as soon as possible. And as a result of this, we're getting only 3 special episodes instead of full-fledged season 3, sadly. Thanks to them, episode was really good, and I'm sure that the rest of the finale will be great too. Dana Terrace, as well as all the other writers and animators, have earned our trust. But as I already said, there is just so much wasted potential here. Hunter fighting his dark side and his dark past, his struggle to fit in and his realization that he is the brother of the Emperor Belus. Also, if we had full season 3, then the return of Belus would have made much more sense. Because now we have 2 villains, Belus and the Collector, and apparently not enough time. The third season would have also explored Luz's past more properly, especially her relationship with her father, as well as Emily's complicated relationship with her mother, I guess. Such a shame that we won't see any of it. To conclude the video, I'll say that I am really glad that we have this show. The Owl House has become one of my favorite animated shows of all time. I hope Dana Terrace will not work for Disney in the future. I hope she'll find some other place like Netflix where she will be able to get more creative liberty, as she deserves. In my review of the first episode of the third season, thanks to them, I made an assumption and the reason why Disney practically cancelled the third season of The Owl House by replacing it with just 3 special episodes with overall runtime of 6 regular episodes was that the show had too explicit LGBTQ representation and Disney simply didn't want to risk. But now I am not so sure, to be honest. There is another possible reason for this. The coronavirus pandemic really affected the company, because their theme parks were closed for some time and profit obviously decreased. And the first season of The Owl House premiered exactly when pandemic was starting, at the beginning of 2020. As a result of COVID affecting profit, Disney needed to save some money. So The Owl House had to be sacrificed, unfortunately. But it's all just speculations, we don't know for sure. Anyway, let's talk about the episode for the future. I must say that I liked it more than Thanks to Them, which, if I'm being honest, felt like a stop. It had the beginning and the ending, but everything in between was so ruthlessly cut. For the future felt more complete. But still there are so many missed opportunities. There are 2 additional plot lines that I think were completely butchered. The first one is Bosha's redemption arc. I've seen someone online comparing Bosha to Ketra from She-Ra, and I can understand why. Bosha is obviously not a bad person. She's arrogant and mean, yes, but that's all for show. She wants to look tough. This is why she's trying to mask her insecurities and her true feelings. She cannot be vulnerable because of her social status. You know, like Diamond Tiara from My Little Pony, or Emily before she met Luz. After all the craziness that happened, Bosha realized that she cannot pretend anymore. She cannot run from her true self and needs true friends to be by her side. At the end, she helps out Luz and the others and finds true friendship. I think this potentially could be an interesting redemption arc. Maybe not on the same scale as Ketra, but it doesn't have to be. Bosha is just a minor character who didn't play much role in the first 2 seasons. Another plot line that we lost is the relationship between King and the Collector. How King gets to know the Collector better, even feels sympathy for him, only to realize that Collector's ancestors killed all the Titans. It's a pity that we lost so much, but at least the show wasn't cancelled altogether and we're still getting the finale, even though it might have been better. After watching the episode, I can feel how Dana Terrace and the crew struggle to make the story feel consistent and coherent without feeling like something's missing. First episode struggled more, but For the Future also has tons of moments that feel rushed, especially when Luz gets her talisman. Nobody, even Camilla, really acts surprised and flabbergasted. Everyone just accepts that Luz now has a talisman, and it's completely normal thing, even if Luz isn't supposed to have a talisman, because she's not a witch. Willow's emotional breakdown also wasn't properly explored, but when the episode is so densely packed, there is simply no time. After watching For the Future, I feel like the main bad guy eventually is gonna be Bellas and not the Collector. The Collector is not really evil. Sure, he did some bad stuff, really bad, like turning people into puppets, but for him it's so just a game. The Collector is just a kid who doesn't wanna be alone. He wants to have friends and have fun. At first he even refuses to believe that King might be coming up with a plan to defeat him. Bellas, on the other hand, is a villain who didn't mind committing genocide against the witches of the Boiling Isles. There is a reason why he didn't perish after the season 2 finale. He already exposed King's intention to bring the Collector down, and I think he's got an even bigger role in the final episode of the show. I was really questioning his role after the first episode, but now it definitely makes more sense. After New York Comic Con in October 2022, Disney finally saw how popular The Owl House was and even came to regret the decision to cut it short. The Owl House is arguably the best Disney Channel show since Gravity Falls, which ended almost 7 years ago. The 3rd season had so much potential. I'm sure though that the last episode called Watching and Dreaming is gonna be good. I hope that The Owl House can set an example and Disney will allow more original shows in the future and give more room to the original creators such as Dana Terrace. I hope we'll see more shows like The Owl House or Amphibia in the future. The Owl House finale sure was good. At least half of the episode was one big continuous action scene, and it looked fantastic. The battle between the main characters and the Emperor Belus is probably the single most expensive animated scene ever aired on Disney Channel. I don't possess actual numbers here, but just taking a look is enough. If you think this and this was smooth, the final episode presents the whole new level of smoothness. It looks like it has at least 48 frames per second. The entire sequence looks just amazing. We criticize Disney a lot for cutting the third season short, and rightfully so. Because of the company's stubbornness and fear of losing precious pennies, we lost so many great moments. And that still saddens me a lot, because The Owl House had a huge potential to become one of the best animated shows of our generation. It still is to a certain extent, of course, but it just doesn't really feel complete in the way that shows like Gravity Falls do, for example. However, Disney tried to make it up as much as the company could when it was already too late to change plans. The final episode received enormous financial backing. Previous episode had some very smooth moments, but they were fairly short battle scenes and the first kiss between Luz and Amity. Half of Watching and Dreaming looks super smooth, and the running time of the episode is also bigger than usual. Usually one episode is about 44 minutes to fit a 1 hour TV slot with all the advertisement. 22 minutes or so for a half an hour slot. The finale of The Owl House is 54 minutes, which is amazing obviously. I could watch an entire hour or more, to be honest. I am really glad that Belus remained the main antagonist eventually. He is a much better villain in my opinion, at least. He has a backstory revealed in the second season and a real motivation to do what he does. Not to mention his look is way more intimidating, especially in his monstrous form. The Collector simply doesn't have this. And he doesn't have the same aura as Bill Cipher for comparison. The Collector is just a child who needs friends. And speaking of the Collector, I felt like his turning into a good side was kinda rushed. Just at the beginning of the episode he was doing his creepy mind games on Luz, but 15 minutes later or so he is ready to change and be a good guy. And his magic suddenly stops working when Bella sneaks into the heart of the Titan, so our trio of main characters could fight Belus without his help. The fight was great without a doubt. But do we really need this main character sacrifices herself or gets killed trope? We know that the characters will not die. This is not a Kamiga kill after all. That show has the opposite problem. Everybody dies. This trope is used to make the story more emotionally intense. What can be more badass and more satisfying than the main character coming back from the dead, even stronger than before, to kick the main villain's rear end? I guess it totally worked in The Owl House. I wish Amity and other secondary characters were more present during the final battle. I wish there was some other action going on involving other characters. Despite obvious issues, the final episode feels the most complete in the third season. It didn't feel too rushed overall apart from the Collector's sudden redemption. But it's not like the Collector was some sort of irredeemable evil demon, like Bill Cipher. The two previous episodes for comparison had some serious pacing issues, especially the first part. If we got a regular 20 episode season, I think that the first episode would have been half of the season, about 10 episodes or so. The second one would have been 6 or 7, and the last one 4 or 3 episodes arc, much similar to Weird Mageddon. Speaking of Weird Mageddon, some people try to justify season 3 being short by comparing it to the Gravity Falls finale. And yes, we talk about running time exclusively, all 3 parts of Weird Mageddon are 88 minutes long collectively, while all 3 parts of the last season of The Owl House are almost 2.5 hours. But we need to understand the big difference between these shows. Gravity Falls was originally planned to have only 2 seasons, and by the time Weird Mageddon started, almost all character arcs that were supposed to be closed had more or less satisfying closures. Zeus and his past, Pacifica's redemption, Ford returning from the portal. The Owl House, on the other hand, just like Amphibia, was originally planned by Dana Terrace as a 3-season show. There were so many ideas and concept arts of what to do in the 3rd season. Most of these ideas will never see the light of day, unfortunately. Basically, we only saw a skeleton of the season 3, if you will. I still feel bad for Boscha. I don't know why, but I grew fond of her and think she deserved redemption arc too. She deserved to become friends with Emily again. All in all, I must say, the Owl House finale was pretty awesome. It was exactly what I expected it to be. Great animation and tons of emotion, mostly positive of course. The ending was excellent and it is pretty hard to believe that the show is now over. And there is not gonna be any continuation because Dana Terrace is done with Disney. Well, good for her. Hope she'll create more amazing shows in the future. Hope she'll have more creative freedom as well. I also hope that the Owl House will show, or already show to Disney executives, or whoever is in charge of approving content and distributing budget, that good serialized animated shows are in demand now, and we will have more good stuff in the future. Disney has got everything. Money, their own streaming service, an army of talented animators who are ready to make something awesome, and most importantly, an audience. Anyway, the Owl House ended and it was an amazing journey, despite all the studio interference that got in the way of the creativity. Now we have another great animated show to add to our collection. Can't wait to see what else Dana Terrace and Alex Hirsch will create for us.